Here's a question for you. When does an e-bike not look like an e-bike? When it's this bike. Hi everyone, today I want to talk about my experience with the City Vanture E-Bike from Vanpowers. I've been using this for a little while now and I'm super excited to share my thoughts. If you're looking for an e-bike that is wallet friendly, super stylish and can handle city commutes with ease, then the Vanpowers City Vanture is definitely worth considering. In this video we're going to take a look at the setup process, how that bike handles around my home city of York, what the power assist levels are like and of course how much it'll set you back. Let's get into it. Should we start with looks then? Vanpowers offer a pretty wide range of colour options for the City Vanture, including a shiny black number, chalk blue, ruby, which is this red-black variant, and then this crazy neon purple number. I, however, went for the infinite silver option, partly because the frame looks so different from other e-bikes I've seen about, and also because I really like the look of these white wall tyres. And in person, let me tell you, it is so much shinier than it looks in pictures. I can't express enough just how much this colour option gleams when you're out and about. I also really like the leather tan accents on the grips and the saddle. It kind of reminds me of a classic Italian design blended with some modern features like this integrated display. So obviously design is a really subjective thing, but for me this is achingly cool and it just doesn't look like any e-bike you've seen before. Although, hang on a minute, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We haven't talked about what this is like to build and set up. So yeah, this is a bit awkward. Vanpowers actually offer two options when you buy this bike. One is a little bit more expensive and it means you get the bike already built in the box. The other one is a bit more DIY and it lets you build it yourself instead. I went with the latter, and as soon as the box arrived and I checked out the how to build video, I realized I'd made a huge mistake. Obviously, if you like building bikes or you've done this sort of thing before, you can save a decent amount of money by doing this, but if like me, you're a bit of an amateur, I definitely wouldn't advise the self-build option. So I ended up taking the box down to my friends at CycleWorks here in York and I left it with the pros. FYI, it took 2 professional bike fitters around 5 hours to build this, so just bear that in mind. And also they did mention that because this is an American design bike, the brakes and cables are actually in a different configuration to how we have things here in the UK and Europe. This wasn't a massive problem, but it did make the build a little bit more fiddly, and luckily there was enough cable to route everything properly. Anyway, when I picked everything up, they all mentioned how impressed they were with the bike and also that the materials seemed particularly high quality. The bike is assembled using a tenon and mortise frame design, which is a 7,000-year-old technique used to aid strength and stability in a variety of settings, and it shows. The frame feels really solid, and in my testing I found no worrying creaks or rattles, even riding around on these old cobbled streets. In the box you'll get everything you need to build the bike, or pay someone else to build, plus a kickstand, reflectors, a pretty cool bell, and an LED light for the front handlebars. There's also a power brick to get everything charged up, more on that in just a minute. Let's move on to take a look at what this is like to ride. So the City Vanture is equipped with a 250 watt motor and a 36 volt battery, which provides plenty of power for somewhere between 50 and 80 miles of range on a single charge. The bike can reach a theoretical top assisted speed of 25 miles an hour, which is great for zipping around on a city commute, although of course that top speed is capped to 15.5 miles an hour here in the UK. Thanks for that. That's not a massive problem though. This bike is plenty fast enough. You're going to get 4 levels of assist, which are controlled via this integrated colour LCD display. This is all IP66 rated for use in all weathers and nice and clear too, even in bright sunshine. So these power levels are Eco, Normal, Tour, Power and Boost. Now you can also turn off the assist completely if for some strange reason you want to do all the work yourself. It is single speed though, so without any assist you're going to be working pretty hard to move this bike around using pedal power alone. In my testing I found I tended to stay between Tour and Power most of the time. It was a nice balance of getting a little bit of assist when you needed it, but also not feeling like your pedals were spinning around, which I found was sometimes the case when speeding along in Boost mode. I live in the UK in a city called York, which is famously very flat, but I was able to find some hills to test this on, and the City Vanture chewed through them in no time at all. Absolutely no standing needed. Here's me testing out the different power levels on a hill with a decent enough gradient. And when you're out of battery, it is just a case of plugging the power lead into the port here, which is housed in this invisible down tube, and from then it takes just 2 hours to charge up to full from empty. Elsewhere we have Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, which are super responsive, and a Gates carbon belt drive. This is virtually maintenance free compared to some traditional greasy metal chains, and if it ever slips off you just pop it back on again and you're away. Another great feature of this bike is how light it is. It weighs in at just 15.5 kilograms, which is very light in the world of e-bikes, and that makes a big difference if you need to carry it around at any point. And you really notice that lightness when you're cruising around on cycle paths or city roads. There really isn't any sense of you kind of having to steer a big heavy lump of metal around. The bike comes fitted with these 700 by 28C Kendra tyres, which are a nice balance of slim and grippy. I found absolutely no issues heading off cycle paths onto more dirt track areas when needed, although I don't think I'm going to be taking this fully off-road anytime soon. It's just not that kind of bike. The ride is pretty firm, there's no fork suspension for instance, but with this colour option I got a really nice saddle which has some comfort features built in, and that does absorb some of the bumps in the roads if you roll over them. Just keep your elbows nice and soft and you'll be absolutely fine. The ride setup is also not super aggressive, that kind of forces you to curl over the handlebars. I found I was naturally sitting in quite a comfortable upright position most of the time, which means if you suffer from any lower back issues you're going to have no problems at all. So you know, with me you're always going to get an honest and fair review, and whilst this is a great bike for many reasons, there are a couple of things to bear in mind that might give you cause for pause if you're thinking about buying this one. Firstly, the battery isn't removable. As we talked about earlier, it's easy to charge, but it does mean you're going to need to have power either where you store the bike or the ability to get power to the bike wherever it is. So if you live in a flat or your home doesn't have a garden or shed or garage with easy power access, that is a bit of a tricky one. Now Vanpowers have come up with a clever workaround here, which is this little accessory that looks like a water bottle, but is in fact another 250 watt battery, which can add a further 50 to 80 miles of range. It will set you back an extra $300 though. Secondly, the different power levels are great, but they don't kick in instantly. Specifically, you get assist after about 1.5 revolutions of the pedals, so just watch my feet here as I move off at this crossing. This is really important if you're thinking about getting away quickly at junctions, and particularly if you're attempting a hill start. For that first turn of the pedals, you are going to be working entirely off your own back to get things going, so expect to be standing up on those hills if you're starting from a standstill. Finally, whilst there are a bunch of really cool accessories available, there isn't a proprietary fender or mudguard set available for this bike just yet, meaning you're going to have to find your own. Now if you're cruising around sunny San Francisco or similar, that's absolutely fine, but here in the UK and Europe we are used to having lots of rain, mud, and sometimes even a bit of snow. So if you live in a country with lots of varied weather and you're planning on cycling around using this bike, you are going to need something to stop these wheels spraying your legs and back with dirt from the roads. Let's move on to talk about price. The City Vanture retails for just over $1,700, which puts it in a mid to low range when it comes to e-bikes. You can of course spend less on a commuter e-bike. I've seen some in the sub $1,000 range from other brands, and naturally you can spend much more, but I think this is pretty good value all around, considering you're getting quality materials, a really low maintenance setup, and a very nice ride to boot. If you're looking for a well-designed, high-performing e-bike, the City Vanture is a great option for urban commuters looking for a reliable and a stylish mode of transportation. And if you want to support the channel, please consider using the purchase link below, which gives me a little kickback to help me continue making videos like this one. And a huge thank you to the Vanpowers team for sending this one over for me to try out. As always folks, if you've got any questions about this bike, just drop them down in the comments below. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like before you leave, and if you want to see more like this, maybe even a cheeky subscribe. See you next time.